Hello and welcome back to the channel where we are building a video game from scratch using Love2d and Lua. I'm just seeing that we didn't do this. We don't have any buttons for our B button just yet, so let's take a look at where we're at. We're in a decent spot. We've got our multi-page dialogue working, so we can assign dialogues to different either NPCs and it moves with the NPCs. We've got multi-page dialogues so that we can have one page lead into another page. We've got warp zones to teleport us, as well as extended hitboxes to trigger dialogues for things that are, normally out of reach, but we can tweak how far the dialogue box is. And then we've also got, I guess those are the big ones. We've got a, I think yesterday we added this other cabin. We added this. There's no bed in here, but we put in an NPC. So I think the plan today is to try to turn our warp zone, what do we call it? Technique. We want to kind of consolidate it into a function that we can say, hey, give us a warp zone at a certain tile, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sixth tile of a column or a row, no, column, and then 8th tile down. And that's where we insert the warp zone because we collide with the little warp zone just down there, and then it triggers the animation and it loads the current, the new scene. So I want to be able to kind of functionalize this so that it's not as much all hard-coded. So if we go to the warp zone definitions in our map declarations here, we should have warp zone here. See this. See all these numbers and stuff in here? I don't like this at all. I would like if we had probably one function called insert warp zone, and we give it a starting warp zone. Well, we'd have to give it the map row and column for the, what do we call it? Like, there's a warp zone that teleports you somewhere, and there's a warp zone that teleports you back. So they're kind of bundled up here because they're tethered to each other, right? One takes you to a certain spot and the other one takes you right back. So it's like a two-way thing. So they're kind of paired. So I'd like to be able to say something like insert warp zone. And then this will get nasty, but I'm hoping it won't be as nasty as this weird game we have to play, because we have to offset. So what the deal is for the warp zone, let's look at the parameters. It's an X and a Y, and that is an X and a Y of the actual warp zone object. And the warp zone object is just a rectangle of width 10 and height 10. So it's just a square of 10 that's placed somewhere, and we're doing AABB collision for the little warp zone, so we can check if the player is colliding with the little warp zone. So the first two params are X and Y of the warp zone. Second two is the player's X and Y, and that is the X and Y that we want to make the player become upon finishing a warp. So, if a warp zone's up here and a player collides, but then we've seen transition into the bottom right, the X and Y, player X and player Y, is the value that the player goes to on the warp 2 scene. And then warp row, warp call is just the row and call of the global map that holds the scene that we're warping to. And then disjoint is right now not very useful, but disjoint is how we're we're modifying the dialog box detection so that we can disjoint it from the player so that it can reach further in front of them. Right now it's only if the player's facing up because we only have that example, but ideally we would move it, we would disjoint it forwards in any direction so that we could potentially trigger other useful dialog boxes depending on, you know, how far we might be from a certain object. I don't have any ideas yet for that, but I think that's why we didn't build it out yet. So with this in mind, we want to be able to insert, we want to have a function that inserts 2 warp zones, one warp zone to and one warp zone from, and have them tied together. And then because the tricky part is if we look at, you know, the X and Y is right here, 50 for the X on our warp zone object, 35 on the Y, and then the corresponding, this is the, you know, we have, this is the player X and Y for the warp from. So see how it's a 48 and a 45 instead of a 50 and 35? That's the kind of junk I want to abstract away into our function. Because ideally I just want to say, here's the tile number, you know, here's the row and column of the tile we want to warp from, and then add the hitbox there so we can detect it, and then also add the tile we want to warp to, because we have to make sure the warp zone is placed right beneath where our player shows up, because if we have our warp zone trigger in the doorway and we want our player to transport in the doorway, we would be colliding if they are colliding. So we have to hide, you know, move the warp zone just beneath the character so that we can warp and not be in a perpetual warp, because anytime we warp, we're already colliding with the warp zone. So it's like offsetting that tiny balance right here. It's just, I don't know why we are modifying the X, the player X and the warp zone X, but the Y is at least 10 pixels beneath it, and that would be flush. You know, if the player's here, the warp zone's here, and that would be flush, like sitting right on top of each other, but not colliding. Yeah, so ideally we write this function and we can kind of automate this a little easier than guessing the X and Y for the player and the warp zone. I just don't want to have to do that. We want fast iteration. So let's see. Our insert warp zone function would need to have a, let's build this out, like a warp from row, and then a warp, I guess, how do we think about this? Because we would be warping from this first scene, warping to the next scene, right? So we can say warp from row, warp from call, and then a warp to row, warp to call, and then that would handle these 4 variables that we need. This one, this one, this one, and this one. So those first 4 arguments handle that. The next 4 arguments need to be similar to this. So we need a warp from X and Y, which we need a warp from X, warp from Y, and then it would be a player, and we need 2 values here. We need warp, how do we say this? Warp player from and warp player to. Warp player from X, warp player from Y. That handles the player X. Now we just need, I think that's it. Let's check the warp zone again. Oh, disjoint. Yeah, we need disjoint as well. Okay, but that's it. That's it, I think. If we leave disjoint false, see how we only have one that has disjoint true. If we omit it, then it defaults to false. So that was an optional parameter. So I think we're good there with these arguments. So now we don't have this function just yet. We just kind of stubbed it out. So we can define this function here. And essentially, the only thing we really need to do is convert. I want to be able to do something like this, where we say tile size 2, tile size 5, but ideally we say which tile. Ideally we just give it a number. So we say like, you know, if we're at the very top but 2 columns over, that would be 0, 2, or since it's 1 index for Lua, 1 would be tile size 1, which we would subtract tile size because we count it 0 for the pixel rendering, but the index is 1 indexed. So we can say, yeah, ideally we put in whatever 1 indexed row and column, and then we just subtract 1 from both so that we get the proper offset for what tile size we're at. Yeah, which tile row and column we're at. Okay. So, I mean, is it convention to just define the function right above where we use it? It's up to us, I guess, if we want it, but it's very easy to write a function in Lua. You say function, and then you say what the function is called, and then you say all the function stuff. So function insert warpZone takes all our params, and we have an end, and then we do our function. So ideally what we're trying to do is just turn these things into one function call and have all the math, like this weird magic number stuff, derived from the integers that we pass in as a simple row and column convention. So we can say, you know, I mean, it's similar to this in the sense that we have to do two things. We have to do two inserts into our warpZone table, but we can pass the correct values. So this would be warp from row and warp from call, and then this would be warp to row, warp to call. Okay. Then there's a player X. Okay, so before we insert the value, we need to modify the player X that we get. And it's actually the warp from X. So we want to take our warp from X and take our warp from Y. And we want to do some stuff to this, like it's going to come as a integer of which tile sheet we're at, which tile index we're at. So, but we need the answer, we need the value here to be equal to the pixels of the X and Y. So we need to convert an integer of a tile number into the pixels that it equates to. So, for example, let's pretend we put in tile X. What am I saying? Okay, let's imagine we're not putting a warpZone. Well, let me think this through. Because if we look if we look at an example, because the thing is, we do have to do a little bit of offsetting because the warp zone X doesn't go exactly where the tile is. So ideally, yeah, look, this is a good example. So if we want to put a warp zone where this doorway is, the warp zone, you know, I'm on the tile that we want to insert the warp zone. It's just that the warp zone is just up here, because once we collide with it, that's when it teleports us. But for simplicity's sake, we want to just say, hey, here's the warp zone. Here's the tile of where we put the warp zone. So let's count this out. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 column. And then 1, 2, 3 row. So those are the values I want to pass in as the parameters. But then the result, we need to convert it. If we convert just those column and row into an X and Y, it'll be the top left corner of this tile right here where my mouse is. But what we really want to do is insert it 10 pixels higher than that, and potentially, if our tile size is 16, we'd want to shift the X over by 3 because it's a 10 by 10. We could make the tile size, we could make the warp zone a size of 16, but I don't know. The thing is, we're actually technically rendering the warp zone, so it's bright green. So if we didn't have a top level layer tile right here, you'd be able to see the warp zone, and it's bright green right here. So yeah, we want to convert this column 9 and this row 3 into an X and Y value that places it just above that given tile and centered. So let's try that first. So we're going to take the warp from X. Now let's just get the X and Y compared to the tile size. So for every tile size, let's see. Let's walk it through with 1. If we give it 1, 1 on the warp X and Y, that means we're going to put it at the very top left. So we need to have... It's hard because I don't know how this works. I don't know how... We should be able to use the value we're given and reassign it into itself, right, with the updated value. I think we can do that. I think we can say, you know, we take the X that we are and we subtract a tile size so that we get the X. We also have to multiply it by the tile size. So we multiply it by the tile size and we subtract the tile size. The subtracting gets us the right index because we start at 0, 0, but a tile size is 16. So if we do a 1, 1, if we just multiply it by tile size, we'd get 16, 16. And that wouldn't put it at the very top left corner. It'd put it 1 tile over. So we're subtracting that tile both from the warp from X and the warp from YX. And we should be able to reassign the old value into itself, or the new value into itself. So something like this. Yeah, so that should be converted into the correct tile size of where we want to. It's the tile of the doorway, but it's not the X and Y that we need. We need the Y to also be subtracted by the 10 pixel height of our warp height. And we also need the X to be, if it's a 10 by 10, plusing a 3 on the X would center our 10 pixels in the middle of a 16 wide tile. So we add those offsets here. and that gets us a warp from X and a warp from Y. Those are the parameters that are going to be passed in as the first argument here, I think. So let's walk through the math here, because if this, and this is for the dungeon, so let's walk through the one for the tavern here. Okay, so yeah, we need our warp zone above the tavern. Okay, so here on this one, the one we were just looking at is a 130 and a 20. So let's see if we pass in, oh gosh, we pass in what, a 9? This one was a 9, and this one was a 3. For 9 tiles to the right and 3 tiles down. So let's walk through that list. We're going to say we take our 9, multiply it by tile size. So, or take our warp from, yeah, so it's going to be 9. Then we multiply it by tile size, which is 16. And that should get us a 144. Then we minus a tile size, so minus a 16 gets us a 128, and then we plus a 3 to get us that center offset, and that gives us a 131 on the X. And that is what our X currently is for this warp zone. So that one looks right. Let's try the 3 for the Y. It's going to be 3 times 9 is 27, minus a tile size, which is 16, so 27 minus 16 gets us 11, and then we subtract a 10. We subtract a 10, which gets us 1, which that doesn't sound right. Yeah, we need 3 times tile size minus a tile size minus a 10. This is a 20, and I came up with a 1, so this is wrong. Was it in fact 3 here? Yeah, because here's 1 tile, 2 tiles, 3 tiles. So we really want the Y to be something up here. So the formula was tile size times 3, so we say tile size, here's tile size 1, here's tile size 2. It would actually be that, wouldn't it? Oh, well, we minus a tile size. Yeah, see, that is so weird. We could just... Let's see, so here's tile size 1, tile size 2, tile size 3. That's the Y of the tile. Yeah, so that is wrong already. We subtract a tile size to get the top left of it, and then we're doing the minus 10. So why is that incorrect? Why do we get a 1 when we do that? 3 times 9. Why am I doing 3 times 9? It'd be 3 times 16. Yeah, so 3 times the tile size. 3 times 16 gives us a 48. That's looking more right. 48 minus a 16 sits us at 32. Minus a 10 gets us to 22. So we are a little off, but I was literally guessing the X and Y for these things. So instead of 20, it's 22, and instead of 130, we came up with 131. Let's just see if those values still work as intended, because then we can't see the warp zone, so that looks good. Ooh, it triggers a little late. Or it triggers, oh yeah, it triggers a little early, so Yeah, this is what we want to avoid. So I think it's not 10. What? This used to be 20, and we put 22. So let's subtract 8 instead of 10, and let's see. Because if we leave it at 20, that feels okay. That feels okay. I'm wondering if we try, you know, I want to be able to walk a decent amount in there before we trigger the transition, so you can see that we can walk through there. Like, you know, I'd like seeing that the thing, the doorway goes above us. So this might, let's try a 19 here. So we might minus 11 instead of 10. Let's see if we, because we want to move it upwards so we can walk a little further in before triggering it. That's looking better. Yeah, so let's see, maybe 18. Try to find that balance of like walking deep enough inside it, but also not feeling wasteful. That feels good. He needs to pop out a little lower, but this is, we're just doing the warp 2 right now. So this is at an 18, so this would be a minus 12 instead of a minus 10. So not flush, just out of frame, but 2 pixels higher than just out of frame. Now, does this work? This only works on a doorway that's facing downwards because of the orientation. I'm trying to think if there's ever going to be a cave opening. I mean, there are cave openings on the downwards, and those are all the warp 2 places. So if we wanted to, if in the overworld we wanted to have a collision downwards, we might have to do a different function than this. This would be a warp zone. This would be a very specific warp zone that has the entrance facing downwards. So we walk up into the entrance because we're shifting the warp zone X and Y. We're shifting the Y higher. So it would only work on an entrance that's opening downward, and it would only teleport us to an entrance that is on the bottom so that we come up. But I can imagine where in the overworld we would have an entrance opening downwards, and when we move into it, it would drop us into an opening on the top, opening downwards. So it would be, yeah, the warp 2 would be facing upwards, so you can't really see it. We'd walk down into it, and then we would pop up at the top, walking down out of the entrance. But that would need a different function than this. This is just the ones that we've got currently. So that's one thing to keep in mind, I guess. Okay, so I like those values. And here we're calculating it based on the tile size, so we don't have to put these crazy magic numbers in here and guess where the X and Y are. We just give it a X and Y location of a tile size number, and then we're good. So next values are warp 2 row. Warp 2 row. And warp to call. Okay, so we need to do the same thing. And this is, now we kind of did this already with, we do have a tile size times 2. So if we look at where we warp, no, this is actually player X. The second argument here is warp player from X. Cool. Warp player from X. Now, actually, hold on a sec. We don't really need, you know, our player has the collision for a warpZone object, and we crashed on Twitch. My bad. Let's see if we come back up. It says we're streaming, and it says we crept. Just giving it a second here, see if we come back up. Man, I thought streaming later fixed this, but it is not fixing this. It's saying we're streaming at 5,800 kilobits, so I'm going to assume it's okay. Okay. So yeah, the you know, this is actually wrong. This is the value here that we pass in to the global map. So this is something else. This is going to be warp from, oh no, we had this right. Warp from X and Y, warp from row to call. Okay, so these two go first, and these are very simple. These don't even need to be changed. These don't need to be initialized because it's just going to be the numbers we pass in as parameters. So these just get used right here straight up as the params from the params, and then this is our warp X, our warp from X, warp from Y. We just calculated those. This is our player X, player Y. So we don't need, it's not from. Yeah, it is not from, it's warp to. Because it's where we place the player once it's done being warped. And that value is different. You know, it's hard to say. Okay, I get what I was saying there. I think I get what I was saying there. Because we do need two different values, because where we warp to is different to where we warp from. Okay, so here's another little bit of confusion, which is why I wanted to do the function, is that when we warp back, this is the difference here. You know, here's the object where we collide with to warp to somewhere, this 50 and 35. And then these arguments, this 48 and 45, are the values we're placing our player at once we warp from the place we just warped to. Once we warp somewhere, it's where the player goes when we warp it back. So these need to be just outside of the original warp from X values. And we just crashed on Twitch again. Okay. It's a real bummer, man. There's nothing worse than paying for good internet and then having Twitch crash, man. Okay, let's hope we're okay. You know, there might be, I'm tempted to get a new router and set up Wi-Fi, all our Wi-Fi devices on the new router. I don't know if that'll help anything. But, dude, this drives me crazy. There's nothing worse than this. I know, first world problems, right? Oh no, my Twitch stream is crashing, man. Man, I was in a groove there. It's really not liking it. It's really not liking it. Okay. You okay, buddy? You can stream, buddy? You okay? Okay. Okay. So I think we can keep the X, and we're crushed. I think we can keep the X the same. and then we just need the Y to be 10 pixels lower. Now, 10 pixels lower than the warp zone would put us flush beneath the warp zone, so as high as we can be without triggering the collision. So I think that might be okay. So let's say that the warp player from X is actually gonna be, I'm gonna say that we don't even need it. Let's test putting this value as the same X position. Yeah, it should be the same. If we put it as the same X position, we shouldn't, oh god. I'm gonna say we don't need two variables for the player on the X position, because it should be kind of tailored to the tile. So yeah, so we're able to reuse that value and it looks okay. So I think that's okay. Dude, what is happening? We're just crashing and crashing and crashing. Yeah, man, once I get some money, I'm gonna get a new router. That's a bummer. So let's say that we keep the X as the same value, and then we need to change our warp from Y. Let's see. So warp from Y, let me think this through. When we warp from Y, gosh, what does that even mean? Warp player from X and from Y. That's gonna be the value that we set on our this thing. So let's fill this out as we go along. So this would be our warp from X, because that is the warp from Y. Yeah, we're just really dumping. So frustrating. We might just call it for Twitch tonight. I want to raid somebody though. Shit, man. Why does it do this? Why does it do this? Maybe if I disconnect my Wi-Fi. Okay. So yeah, this is a warp from X, warp from Y, and then this next one, this second one, is gonna be, yeah, we're just gonna have to call it on Twitch, man. Let's cut it and try it back soon. We're missing one thing here. Yeah, so this is the X and Y of the warp zone box, but then this should be the X and Y of the warp zone box for our other warp zone. For the one that we're warping to. We do have this warp from the row and column. Then we have a warp warp 2 row. This is wrong. Okay. These 4 values are incorrect. No. You know, these are just the... Gosh, okay. You know what? I think we do need... We have a warp from X, warp from Y, warp player. We need another value in here. We need a warp 2X and a warp 2Y. Yeah. Oh my god, okay. So I think, yeah, this is going to be a warp 2x, because that needs to be a separate value. Warp 2x, warp 2y, those are the parameters. We do need to calculate those. So warp 2x, warp 2y. Now the good news is I think it's the same stuff. We can say warp 2x times our tile size, subtract our tile size for the offset, then center us. And then this is going to be multiplied by tile size, subtract for offset, and then subtract. Actually, this is a little different. This one needs to be plus 12 because we need to be beneath. Yeah, I think both. Yeah, I think. Yeah, when we warp to somewhere, the dialog box, the collidable dialog, or the collidable warp zone box is beneath. So we need to add positively that offset. So it wouldn't be, shoot, yeah, this is actually, I think we don't need to subtract our tile size here. I think, actually, we might get away with just, no, I think we don't need to subtract the tile size. Let's walk through the math for that and see if it tracks. So, for our tavern here, here is our warp 2x and warp 2y. So let's see which tiles we're at for the warp 2 and then calculate our little values here. So it's going to be, x is going to be the same where we center it. So it's going to be the value times the tile size minus the tile size plus 3. And then the y is going to be times the tile size plus 12. Let's see. So let's find, we're looking for that 35 and 125. So here, as long as we comment this out. Okay. So here, we're at the bottom, right? Now, I don't like, you know, we should be a little lower. We should be like inside the doorway, like here. But we're at tile size of 3. So the x is going to be this 3 times our tile size, which is 16, minus a 16, plus 3. So let's see what that is. Let's see, 3 times 16 gets us 48, minus a 16 gets us 32. Then we add 3, that gets us a 35. Then our y is, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 column. It's at the very bottom. So that would be 9 times 16. And then we add 12. So let's see what that looks like. So 9 times 16 gets us 144. Plus 12 gets us 156. So we have 35 and 156. So let's see. $35, $125. Okay, so it looks like the y might need to be minus 12. Let me see. Because our y, we're saying, is just times tile size. So if we just did the tile size without modifying it, because here, you know, we're also offsetting the tile size, so I think we do have to say, it's hard to imagine, because 9 times 16, that would put us, oh, we do have to subtract. Yeah, we do have to subtract by tile size. Okay. So if we subtract by the tile size, instead of just adding the 12, that puts us at 140. That's still off. So if we subtract a 12 instead of add a 12, that'd be a 24 difference. So even that is still off, because that would put us at a 116. That is closer to 125 than 140. Let's see if we do the 140 where it puts the warp zone. Let's see. I think it'll get stuck. You know, if this were a 140, oh, it would actually be lower. The warp zone detection would be lower when we warp 2. So we wouldn't trigger it till we walk. See, there was that green square of the collision. So it's not that. But let's say that we don't subtract the tile size. That puts us even lower. Okay. Okay, so if all we do is multiply by the tile size, we get 144, and that is too low. Oh, actually, it's pretty spot on. But if we put the warp 2y at, oh, you know what? that does make a lot of sense. Let's see if we put the 144 there, how that turns out, because that might actually be perfect. Oh, just too low. Then we get stuck. Because the idea is, well, let's see here. You know, if we count to the 9th. Actually, hold on a sec. No, yeah, okay. You know, if all we're doing is multiplying by the tile size, this would be tile size 1, so we would say times 16, so it would put us at a y of the next tile. So maybe we shift it up, because that would mean that since we gave it the 9th tile, we put the collision box right here, right beneath it. So maybe we can subtract a little less than 8, because it's not halfway up, but we want it like right there. We want it to trigger. So we want less than just times by the I want to say maybe -4, maybe a little minus more. Let's see. We should be able to shoot. It's right. It is down there. It is just too low. So let's try 132. mean, what was the value before we tweaked it? What was the right value? 140? Really? 140? That gets us to be the -4 I was just talking about, but it's not working. And that is, yeah, that is the Y position. Let me just make sure we're not messing that up. $140. Oh, no, it used to be 125. Yeah, it used to be 125. So where did we get that 15 pixel difference from? 15 pixels plus the 4, that gets us 19 pixel difference. That is weird. Okay. Okay. Well, it was... I already forgot the number it was supposed to be. Used to be 125. That is so weird. Used to be 125. Okay. I'm half tempted to just like add whatever subtraction we need. Just subtract whatever we need to get that right number. Okay, this is driving me crazy. I forgot the number again. I'm writing this down. 125 is the right number. Okay, and what we calculate is a 144. So how do we get this mathematically? How does that make sense? Because I thought we did it okay. If we do just... Yeah, here, let's walk it through again. Yeah, if we just multiply by the tile size, we're going to get a number that puts us with a Y down here. Now, if we collide down here, we'd have to walk all the way down screen, so we need it to be a lesser number than that, a smaller number. So if we were to do the minus by tile size, it should put a green dot right there. So let's just test that. If we do a 144 minus a 16, now that would get us smaller than 125, right? No, a 128. Okay, well, we might be getting somewhere. If we put it there, I would think we would see the green, but we don't. And it triggers there. Okay. That is so weird, though. Why does it not... Why can't we see it? Because we're subtracting the tile size, so it should be putting it right here if we give it a 9. Because 9 times 16 is 144. That would get us right off the screen here. Minus a tile size should put us a Y right here. I mean, do I just assume it's okay? I don't know. It works. It works. I just don't get why we can't see it. Let's try to scoot it up and see if we can see it down there. Because if we put... Let's put another minus like 8 to try to see the tip of that green collision. It should be there. Yeah. It is right there. But why is it so low? It shouldn't be that low. Maybe I miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Okay, and then 9 times tile size puts us down here. So why not minus... Yeah, why does minusing a tile size not put us right there? I will never know. Maybe it has to do with our warp zone declaration. Ooh, no. Nope. We just have a Y. And we just check collision with that Y. Yeah. Okay, well, it looks like the minus tile size works fine. Let's see how deep we have to walk into it to trigger it and see if we are okay with that, and then we'll move on. So we walk deep in there. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so the thing here is going to be multiply by tile size minus tile size. That's it. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the next value here is the player X that we warp to. So we need to put warp player X. It's a player 2X, right? It's just called warp 2X. Warp. No. Holy crap, man. There's so many parameters. Okay, these first 4 are just for the global map. These next ones are from the X and Y that we're warping from. These are the X, Y we're warping to. Yes, we do need a warp from X and a to X and Y. So warp player 2X, warp player 2Y. Okay. So yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a little backwards, but because we use the from Y to place it, warp player 2. So it's, gosh, it's a little weird. But we warp player. Oh, and you know what? Oh, we have the tavern Ys there. Okay, so we can at least check our logic here. Okay, so all of this junk, all of that magic number garbage, we can put player 2Y. Okay, and then this is the one we already have, and it's just a straight param, and it's just warp 2. Warp to row, warp to call. Okay, so we're on the last 2. Well, we'll see. Yeah, all we've got to do is calculate the warp player to X. Okay. Okay. So we warp a player to an X position, and it should be basically, it should be exactly where we're warping it to, but modified by the player height or width. Ooh. Okay. The warp 2, oh my gosh, man. Because, yeah, the player doesn't need to be... I think the thing is this warp from X can be exactly the same X as the warp to X. x minus 3. That is so stupid. That's so stupid. But it's not. Like, I mean, what I'm basically saying here is, like, whenever we warped to somewhere, take that box that was centered in the tile system and uncenter it to the left so that our player is flush with the tile set. And that's the X that we're warping back from. Because we warp to somewhere and then from the warped place. Okay, and then when we warp to in X, it should be really simple. It should be that we take the number that we passed in as the param and we multiply it by tile size. We subtract it by tile size. And that's it. Okay, let's see if that value checks out. So we have as that parameter, here's x, y of our warp zone, x, y of our player. So warp player 2x, this one should be 32. So it should be 32 and 100. So let's see if the 32 checks out for the warp 2x where we've currently got it. So, okay. Now, warp 2, yeah, it should be 32. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think... Okay, so we're at 3 tile sizes in. So the logic here is if we pass it a 3 for the third tile size in, third column of tile size, we're gonna do 3 times 16, which gives us, you know, I am so tired to do mathematical. 48. So we do a 48, and then we subtract a 16 for the tile size. And it's not this one, it's this one. No, it's not this one. Son of a bitch. It is this one, okay. So yeah, we multiply by tile size and then subtract a tile size, and that gives us a 32, which is correct. Then our y is equal to 100 at this point, but what we need to do is multiply the warp to player y. Well, we're going to say take that param warp to player y, warp player to y, and we multiply it by the tile size. Then we subtract the tile size. I think it's the same thing. Because we're trying to get... Well, let me think. Because we don't want to... Well, I guess we could want to place them right there at the exact tile size. Because that would place us however much under the door. Let's see if we get 100 with this. So we're at tile size... We're at row 9, is that right? Yeah, we're at row 9. Times 16 would give us 144. And we're subtracting a tile size, which puts us at 130 something. 128. That is still 28 pixels lower than our 100 that we're expecting. So why is I don't get why our y is so off. Let's, for example, imagine we were coming out at the very top of the screen with this current thing, this would be 1, so we tile size, yeah, we'd multiply by tile size, which gives us 16. We subtract the tile size, which gives us 0. And if we render our y at 0, we're just at the top of the screen, which is flush with the tile size that we passed in, which is what we want. But we're actually wanting a y of 100. Let's see if y is 100 when we walk in here. Okay, so 100 is a little bit too high. So our 128, here, let's see. 128 is what we calculated. That's too low. Oh, and you know what? It needs to be just above the warp zone. Yeah, so we can use where we warp, oh my god, warp from y minus another 10, so that we're sitting right on top. So I think what we can do is say warp to, no, warp from y minus 10. And our warp from y is our tile size minus 12. So that would take our 128. It would minus 12 and give us 118. Oh, no, 116. And then we minus a 10. So it would give us a y of a 106. That is so different than, well, actually, it's not so different. It's just 6 pixels lower than our current 100. Okay, I think that might work. So yeah, let's see if a 106 looks right and is not colliding with our warp zone. So that's 100, 103, 107. Okay, yeah, 106 looks okay. We probably want to, I don't know. We can't scoot it any more down because then we're going to be colliding with the warp zone, but actually looks like we don't collide with the warp zone until past 109. Even 111. Okay. So we can afford to subtract 3 pixels less than we're doing this. So this y here, we can say, god damn it, I don't like the magic numberness, but if it works, then we just don't have to worry about it. Okay, and then our x is going to be uncentered from our warp zone. Then our warp player from y is going to be warp player from y. What value is this? Warp player from y. Man, dude, all of these. Why do we need the y? Why do we need the from y? Where is the from y coming from? We don't even have it. We don't use it here. Okay, so the warp zone takes in, yeah, x and y of the warp zone, x and y of the player, then the row, yeah. But then we have a warp 2 for the other one, and then here is a warp player from an x, and from a y, yeah, we don't need that one. Warp player from y. And then this would be warp from call. And warp. It would be warp from row, warp from call. Okay. This is looking right. And we don't need a warp player from y. So warp player from Y shouldn't be required in the params. Warp player from Y should not be required. Dude, this is nuts. Is this really better? I mean, it is. It is if it works. It is. Because I'd have to guess all this stuff when we were doing it and placing it and trying to calculate the offset and the warp zone and all the params is hard for me to keep my head around. So if we just had one, that would be easier. Okay. So let's try this. Instead of us table.inserting two statements here, ideally we want to call our new function. So we're just going to call our new function and we give it the correct values, which in this case is a 7 and a 2 and a 1 and 11. Okay. Then, okay. Okay, warp from X, that's going to be... Okay, we'd have to count this, the tiles. Let's see here. Okay, so this one right here would be an X of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me write this down. It's at 9 and 3. And then, so this makes it easier. Like, if we wanted to move this whole cabin, all we have to do is update that 9-3 to be wherever it is on the row column. And then, oh, we didn't insert it, so we can't test where the other one is. I know it's at 9. I think it's at 9. I think it's at 3, 9. I think. Yeah, very bottom, but 3 over. That sounds right. Okay, so when we go to insert, when we go to call our function, we have the first two. Warp from X, that's going to be our 9. Then this is going to be 3. Our warp to X is going to be a 3. And warp to Y is going to be a 9. And then warp player from X. You know what? Why can't we just calculate this with the warp zone? Yeah, we should just be able to calculate this with the warp zone. Holy crap, man. Yeah, we should be able to. Yeah, we shouldn't have to do this. Okay. Because if we define warp player from X, yeah, see, look at, we define this by our warp to X. We already define it by that, so let's just say that this isn't a required parameter. This is just a local variable that we store. We don't need to require it. Warp player from X. You know what? Before we miss out, I'm going to just comment this and just say functionalizing warp zone insertions, because we almost missed our green dot for the day on GitHub, so we got that in, and save our progress, a little checkpoint. So we're gonna say that, yeah, this warp player from X is defined by our warp to X, so that we don't have to give this extra parameter. Because if we know where the warp zone is going to be, we know where our player needs to be warped to when we come back to it. Yeah. Yeah. And same with our warp. Oh, warp player from. Yeah, same with our warp player 2. No. Okay, warp player 2x needs to be defined, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because we don't know. No. We should be able to do this. Yeah, we're defining it by warp player to x. So as long as we have warp player to x. Son of a bitch. Warp player to x. Yeah, man, we should be able to define this. It shouldn't be warp. It shouldn't be this. Yeah, it shouldn't be this. It should be defined as part of our warp 2. Let me just, before I delete that. Okay, if we copy this. Okay, if we define this in terms of our warp 2x, we can omit an extra parameter. So if we say our warp to x, which is mostly this, gosh, man. It's gonna be this minus 3. This is the same as we're getting close. We're getting close. I'm half tempted to take a break and get fresh eyes on it, but we are really close. Let's see if I can focus and get it. Okay, when we're calling the function, we're going to say that we need to warp a player from an x, which is defined by our warp 2x. So warp player from x is defined by our warp 2x. That looks correct. So we should be able to get rid of that parameter. So warp player from x should not be required. Warp player from x should not be required. Okay. Then our warp player 2x, that is just going to be defined by our warp 2x. So warp player to x is defined by our warp to x, and we untrack it here. Now, this is the same as warp player from x, so this is what I'm getting confused at. Okay, our warp 2x is a tile size, a tile x, it's a tile column. So if we're warping 2, the third column, we pass in the warp 2, oh my god, and then warp 2x, warp 2x. Okay. So if we assume, warp to x is correct. So when we warp the player to an x, yeah, it needs to be to where we're warping 2 minus the 3 so that we're centered. And then, so if we assume that warp player 2x is correct, we're just calculating a warp player 2x. Hey, why do we have 2 of these? It's not this one. It's this one. Okay. So I guess this needs to be local as well because we don't have it defined. Okay. Warp player to Y. Where we're warping the player to is defined by where we're warping it, where the warp... These words have no meaning to me anymore. Warp from Y. So we warp to a place and then we warp from that place. So why is it -7? I don't know, but it worked. So if we define, we shouldn't need a warp player to Y in our parameters. Warp player to Y and warp player to X is also defined by warp. So warp player should be taken out. Okay. So if we take that, if we take all those out, we're left with how many parameters? We're left with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we should be able to just do that. So now, if this works, we're turning these two lines into this one function call that says put a warp zone from 7 to tunneled to map 111 at 9 column 9 on the X, tiles 3 on the Y, and warp 2 3 on the X and 9 on the Y. Let's see if it works. Okay, close. We did warp. And we did warp to... Oh, we warped? Yeah, we warped to 1... We warped to 1-1. Did we not? We warped to 1-1. Yeah, 1-1, not 111. So, are we not warping... It put us at the wrong Y also. Warp. Oh yeah, this is wrong. It should be warp from row. No. Okay, no, yeah, this is right. Warp from row and warp from call. That worked right. Just the second one didn't work. Warp to row. Warp to call. 111, not 1-1. Why are we going to 1-1? Why is the fourth param, which is our warp to call, not getting... Actually, this would be right here, warp... Oh, we did 2. Okay, yeah, this is call. Okay, let's see. And... fuck it. Almost. We're up here with this guy. Okay, so... our player, warp player to Y isn't working. So let's take a look. Our player to Y is our warp from Y minus a 7, and our warp from Y is however many tiles. Yeah, offset by 12. Oh, we do need to minus 10 so we don't collide with it. Oh God, that's not right. Minus 10 would put us even higher. Well, our Y is 3, which is up. Okay. We're really close. My eyes are glazing over looking at this. Okay. Clearly where we messed up is somewhere in these because let's walk this through, right? Like this is warp from X, warp from Y, warp 2X, 2Y. Yeah. Then there's warp player from X and warp player from Y. That all looks right. Warp player 2X, warp player 2Y. That all looks right. Yep. Okay, so we must be messing up these local variables. So when we're warping our player to somewhere, we're going to say it's modified by whatever our warp 2x is minus 3 so that we center it. That sounds right to me. I think that one's right. This one, we're saying our warp player to a y location is going to depend on not our warp. Why are we doing a minus 7, minus 10? I think, if anything, it's a minus 16 for our player's height. But even that is just too high. Yeah, because look at our y. Oh, our y is 112. Oh, shit. Man, we're so close. Okay. What was the y value here that was working? Oh my gosh, man. Okay. Hey, Prosto. Yeah, it is. It is. I don't normally do late, but here I am. It's been tough, dude. Like, it's hard to cook dinner and try to, like, unwind before work and then, like, program. Yeah, it's tough to fit it in, so I'm trying to... Yeah, it's midnight right here where I'm at right now, so... I got work in the morning too, so maybe that's why I'm streaming late. Just don't want to go to sleep. Sooner I go to sleep, sooner I gotta work, right? It is a bit random. We're just trying to debug this last thing here, and it's disgusting. Warp player from X. Warp player from Y. It's going good, dude. I mean, probably not as much. I don't know when's the last time you've seen, but we've got like little. We can read. We can talk to NPCs now. It can have multiple pages of dialogue. We've got these little like scene transitions, which this is busted, which is what we're trying to fix. we had a I don't know, have you seen the inventory system where you can come in and apply the loot and you can change the spell you're holding and you can put on a different color tunic? You've seen that, I think. But yeah, we're trying to hash out the issues. Okay, nice. So yeah, we've got the inventory. I mean, it's still programmer art over here, but we do have the dialogue system has taken us like, I feel like 2 weeks already. Yo, hey man, all the code is open source, man. I think even the I think even the loot samples I recorded are part of the Git repo, I'm pretty sure. So even if you wanted to steal those, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, dude. I say add it. I think it's cool. Oh my gosh. My brain is fried looking at these dudes. What is this? Okay, so what we did change is we changed our warp player to Y is our warp from Y minus 7 instead of minus 10. And then our warp player to X is a warp to X minus 3. I think that one's right. No, that's not right. Because we're warping our player. Let's see. Let's get rid of this minus 10. Yeah, just like, you know, I get what you're saying. Just like a really simple instrument, like you just pluck 3 strings or whatever, and it makes some sounds instead of like the frets and stuff like that. I mean, you can even give it, you know, give it all of the notes in a pentatonic scale or something, and just randomize it every strum or something, so that it's coming out okay sounds, you know. What do you mean 99% of all the streams? Yo, I'm the main Love2d Twitch dev? Is that what you're saying? No way, dude. I mean, I guess I'm not searching for Love2d streams, so you probably know more about it than me. Thanks, man. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I do get a lot of people on YouTube who are like, I see that I get it says most of the views are from a search of Lua game dev and Love2d game dev. So a lot of people are looking that up on YouTube, and that's how some people find me there. But that's cool. That's cool. I really should look up more Love2d game devs. There was a guy, he was streaming for a while. I haven't seen him in a while. Can you tell it's midnight? Yeah, I'll do that. It's you, it's me and me and me and me. That's funny, dude. That's nuts. I mean, I think today is the 501st episode. I've been doing it less time on Twitch, but as far as YouTube's concerned, I'm over 500 episodes now of Love2d Lua game dev. That's cool, man. I'll look into that. I'll see if I can find, you know, at least shoot some other fellow Love2d devs a follow. Should have done that. Yeah, dude. I mean, especially lately, I've been all over the place with timing. It's been not consistent at all. But I applied for a programming job, and the interview went well. So I'm hoping to get feedback from them, or hear back from them if I got the position or not. And I think that would help my mental health a bit, because my day job right now is just no programming, so I'm getting real burnt out on that. So depending on if I get this other job, it's a programming job, I don't think it'll kill my will to program game dev. I'm hoping it'll just kind of like ease my anxiety about future work opportunities and stuff, because I've been trying to transition into a programming career for 5 years now. So I'm hoping it'll ease up my sort of stress about that, and then I can kind of fall back into a groove where I get a consistent stream going again. Nice. Yeah, dude. It's real. It's real. It's tough. You know, it's really tough to find the consistent time because it's like, unless you do it when everyone's asleep or whatever, you know, if you have a party to go to or people want you to hang out or family events and stuff, you know, I would stream at 7 and like, you know, whenever people would hang out, it's like right at 7. So I was like not hanging out with people. But I don't know. I'll figure out a groove to it again. At least I'm still doing it, you know, as daily as I possibly can. So I haven't missed many days, but the timing has been all over the place. The shaky code. Okay. Yo, we might raid him. Is that a dude? Cool new dude? Yeah, okay. We might raid him here in a sec. I'm going to see if I can fix this. We're so close. We're so close. I thought we did all the... Okay, well, I think this is where it's wrong. Because when we warp a player to X, that is the X position of the player when it goes to the new warp zone. It should be... Yeah, it should be defined by this. Minus a 3. That's right. Because 3 for the offset right here. Hang for things? I don't know what that means. Hang for things. But yeah, I think I get the sentiment. Nice, dude. Yeah, I've got to stop in on you. One thing I've noticed is I've tried to raid you multiple times, but yours is turned off for raiding. So anytime I see you live, I try to raid you, but I always forget that you don't have it turned on. So I've tried to raid you, but it hasn't worked. Yeah, I figured it's intentional, but yeah. I have tried to, I mean, I guess I could peek in on your stream anyway if I can't raid, but normally I hang out with whoever I raid with for a bit. Gosh, man. The longer I look at this, the more I don't know what I'm looking at, but we're so close. We had all the values correct, I'm pretty sure. Let's make sure our params, we have 8 params. There's our 4. There's our 4. Yeah, these ones are right. So these ones are where we would be messing it up. Warp from X, from Y. Those are working because we trigger the warp perfectly. But the warp to Y is where we're getting messed up. Okay. Warp 2Y. Warp 2Y. What is that? Warp 2Y. Okay. That's... Okay. Jeez, man. This is... I think that's right. Let's try to switch these two and see if that's our issue. Oh, it's not 9393 though. Because the 93 comes from 9 columns over, 3 rows down. That's where we put the warp zone. Oh, see, look at that. Yeah, see, that's a 9393. We really want 39 so that we're over there. So that, I mean, it's close. That looks like it placed it right. Because if we put it at 1-1, it should be linked up to the top left there. Yeah, so the warp zone's linked to the top left, but our player couldn't be because the collidable walls. So if we try something like in the middle, 4-4, we can see if that's looking right. What the... Okay. Okay. So 4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, but it puts us up above because 4 is the warp zone. So if we try 6, let's try 4 and 6, or let's do 3 and 6 and see if that's looking right. See, it's not putting us in the right location. Hey, yeah, I feel you, Prosto. Hey, thanks for stopping by, dude. Thank you. We'll catch up. Sometime soon. I'll try to pop into your stream here next time I see you live. But yeah, I know we're on weird schedules, so we miss each other a lot. But thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you later. Have a good day, dude. It looks like, yeah, why is our player not warping correctly? Our player Y is not working. So our warp player, let's see. When we warp here, warp player 2Y is not being corrected. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, take where we're warping from. This is wrong. Because we warp from, yeah, that's on the wrong side. This should be, warp 2Y should be, it should be warp 2Y minus 7. I think that's right. Oh, that's close. That was, yeah, warp 2Y minus 7. It's not minus 7, it's minus 16, right? Yes. Okay. Okay, so that looks right. What did it crash on, though? Field Y on entity 258. What the heck? Why is it crashing on the entity? What is going on? Warp 2 player Y. Okay, I mean, it's got to be something right here. Do we have a warp 2X? Yes, we do. We have a warp to Y. We have a warp player from X. Yes, we do. We have a warp player from Y. No, we don't. Okay, so the warp player from Y is what we need to calculate. And warp player from Y, what does that even mean? It's we don't even need this. Yeah, we don't even, right? Because this is the X and Y of the object. This is the X and Y, okay, that we're coming to. Okay, so this is gonna be defined from our warp from Y. And we're gonna take our warp from Y and add a 10 so that we're right beneath it. I think that's it. Let's see. Yes. Well, we warped wrong. We warped to our X, warp to X wrong. We need to warp, oh lordy. Okay. Warp player 2X works, but warp player from X, that's a confusing part, because warp player from X is yeah, this is wrong. It should be warp player 2X. right? No. We're trying to put the player where we warped from. So warp player, oh my god, warp player 2x is gonna be warp to x, no, warp from, holy crap, man. Okay, 4 params, those are the scenes, warp from x, warp from y. That is where we put the dialog box, yeah, the x and y of the warp zone itself. And then warp 2x and 2y is where the dialog box is on the warping 2 scene. Whenever we warp somewhere, the warp 2x and 2y is where that dialog box or that warp zone x and y is. Okay, so then this next value, this warp player from x, because we're saying warp us to an x and to a y, and that's working. But then we're saying this isn't the right way to title it, because we're not trying to go. What this value is supposed to be the warp from x, but shifted by 3, which warp player from x is the warp 2x. See, that's wrong. This should be the warp from x minus 3. And then the warp from y is going to be where we warped from y plus 10. So that we're not colliding with the warp zone box. So let's see. We walk up. It's looking right. And then we walk down and we're in the hole. Cool. So now we just need to give the proper 3 and 9, and then we should be in business. Let's see. Yes. That's it. That's it. I think that's a bit too low for us to spawn in at. So we can just adjust that right here. When we warp our player to an x, we're going to say, or to a y, we're going to say it's not only minus 16, but we're also going to shift up by maybe 5 pixels. So let's see, we come in here. That looks okay. Yeah. I feel like we can move this. I feel like we can move the warp 2x or warp 2y just a little bit higher. So let's do a minus 5 up there. 5 is too much. We don't want to walk too deep into it before it triggers, but it didn't work. Warp player 2y, warp player. Should be this warp from y. Okay, so warp from y, we're going to say not a minus 12, but minus a 15. So we scoot that up just a bit. So we go bop, bop. That looks okay. Yeah. Yeah. I like that you go like most of the way in it, because it just helps with the transition a bit. It shows off that we're rendering that stuff above the character, which I think is cool. Cool. Okay, this is great. So if we really did this right, we turned all of these random numbers into numbers we can make sense of. It's, hey, this is the 7-2, because you're going from the 7-2 warp zone to the 111 warp zone, so those are the first 4 params. Then the second 4 is the tile size row and column of where you're warping from to where you're warping to. So if we were to write down the values of the dungeon and the inn, instead of all of these weird ass 50, 35 times 2 minus 5, 112 times 2 plus 15, 48, 45, all of this random number stuff, we should be able to just go say, okay, we're on row column 93 to row column 939. So let's get those values real quick. So we've got the in's working, so let's get the value for the dungeon. So the dungeon in this case is from a 7-4. So dungeon is 7-4. Now we don't know the next two params just yet, but we know that the row and column is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 4. Then we can get the value of where we warp to, which is a 112. Those are our third and fourth params. And then we are at a 2. No, we're at a 3. Oh, come on. He knocked us out. 1, 2, 3 in the 9. Because we're at the bottom, so 3, 9. Okay, so our params are fairly simple once we know. And it's going to be, we're going to take this and we're going to say, well, instead of doing this with all these weird numbers, we're going to say that we're at a 7-4, 112, 4-4, and 3-9. So let's see if that is the new dungeon warp zone. Let's test it out. Let's see. And it worked. Heck yeah, man. Said it prematurely because we didn't test it till we came out, but it worked. So let's get the in. Yeah, let's get the in now. So, I mean, at least we know that this is an 8 and 3, and this is a 2, 11. So we at least got those params. So let's get the next 4. And we'll just do this. Okay, that's okay, that's okay. Let's comment this out while it's broken. We need this turned on, actually, because we need a test. Okay, so here it's going to be 3, 8. Because we are 3 columns over. 8 rows down. And then this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the X and a 9 on the Y. So this should be, we can uncomment this. This should be 8, 3, 2, 11, 3, 8, 7, 9. Okay, if this works, I'll be happy. This is one of those things that I've been, oh, that's wrong. It should be 3, 8. Why is that one wrong? 3, 8 and 7, 9. We're going from 8, 3 to 2, 11. That looks right. Yeah, we teleport right, but then we're saying 3, 8 and 7, 9 is wrong. It is at 3, you know, the X is right, but the 8, why is it? Yeah, because this should be, oh shoot. Yeah, this looks wrong. Why? We could see that the X was right. We're saying that the warp zone, oh my gosh. And then where are we? We're wrong. Shit, man, we're so close. we know the x is right. It's aligned right. It just needs to be one higher. And we say it's 8. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7. How many are in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? We're only 8 high? So that would mean that this is actually 7. And this would be 7 and 8. Yeah, but we put 9. Oh my god, we put 9 in other places though. Look, we have 9. Yeah. We might have done this wrong. Because, yeah, if we really don't have 9 rows, or, yeah, rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we only have 8 rows. So when we put a 9 row here into the bottom, it's still coming out right. So why is our warp to y still right? Because we're saying warp to y gets whatever we pass it in minus the tile size. But 9 times the tile size puts us a whole... this could be why it was so wrong for the y's. Ooh, if we pass in a 1 times 16 is 16 times minus 16 is 0. So that works. If we pass it in a 9 times 16 is 144 minus a 16. That would put us... Okay. So why does the 9 take us to the correct spot is what I want to know. Because the correct spot it puts us is this warp player to y. So warp player to y, oh, see, we're subtracting an extra 16, which we shouldn't need to do here. Well... why would... Okay, so when it puts us in the wrong... the issue is we're putting a 9 here, even though there's only 8 rows. So we need to figure out why when we put the 9th row, first of all, why it's giving us the correct position, and then how to change it so that we give it the correct row and then have it still work. So when we pass it a 9, it's passing this warp to y. So if we look at this warp to y, it's whatever we pass it times the tile size minus the tile size. So we're saying if we pass in 1, we times it by 16 minus the 16 to give us a y of 0 at the top of the screen. So if we pass it a 9, we times it by 16, gives us 144 minus a 16, which gives us a 128. And that is actually the y of the very bottom of our screen before it turns into the HUD. So we do need to say, actually that's right. It's just that we're giving it the wrong value. So I think we just get rid of this 16 and we just give it the proper y of an 8th row. I think it works. Let's try it. So we're coming in here. Let's see. Oh, now it warped us to the right y, but it did not place the warp zone in the correct spot. So that would be this warp to y, and we changed the warp to y to be this. Okay. So maybe our warp to y was correct, but our warp... No? Yeah, because... Okay. So the other, well, it really bugs me that the 9 is actually giving us the right result. Because we should be passing it an 8. So what we need is a 16 pixels lower for the warp to Y. Yeah, we need this to be 6 pixels lower. But the thing we're actually calculating when we say, well, gosh, man. Okay, warp to Y is the Y position of the warp zone that we warp to. That's not the issue here. What was the issue here is the warp from Y. But only on... This is weird. Only on the other... On the in here. So this one should be 3 and 7. And this one would be 7 and 8. But I think the 8 actually needs to be a 9. Because the broken ones are working on every other one. So I think this will warp us to the in correctly. Yes, but it's off by 1 on this one. Because this, well, 7 and 8. Okay. This is... We're just a little bit off, because I think the Y looked right? No. We need to be 1... Yeah, we need to be 1 Y lower, 1 X over. So this is actually 6, and this is actually... 9. But the 9 is wrong. The 9 is not the 9 we're looking for. Okay, so that one works fine. But with the wrong 9 value. I mean, we pass it in 9 and it puts us in the right spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's hard to... I can't count the sprites when we're like this, but if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're only 8 high. So when we give it a Y of 9, it shouldn't be possible, but it's given us the right answer. Okay. Let's see if the in is working. If the in's working, we might just call it a night. I'll get some sleep, and then we'll fix the semantic bug in the morning, or in the tomorrow. Okay, it does work. Warping to the in does work. Okay, so all we got to do is figure out why this warp to Y is giving us the right location with the wrong parameter passed to it. So when we pass in something like 9, we're saying that the warp to Y is equal to that 9 number times the tile size minus the tile size, so that it is, I always go back to giving it an example of 1, because that turns into a 0, which is the top. So if we were to give it 8, which is the bottom of our screen, that is the last row that we can be placed on. We're going to multiply it by times 16. So 8 times 16 is 128. And then we subtract a 16 to get us to a 112. Let's just check if that 112 value is accurate for being at the bottom of the screen for our character. Because 112, yeah. When we're at 112, we're at the bottom of the screen. That's correct. That is the 8th row, not the 9th row. So we do have this wrong. So this, if we pass in 8, it does give us the correct... That's the number I'm expecting to pass in, which is the tile times the tile size minus the tile size. But the issue is, when we pass in this warp 2Y, we're only using that as the X and Y of the warp zone that we're teleporting from. God dang it. No. So when we warp somewhere, the warp zone box that we're going to collide with to warp back, that's this warp to Y. And that is not wrong. Because we're saying... It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think we need to say... The other thing is this warp to Y is getting modified. So I think what we need to do... Okay, I think I got it. I think our warp to Y needs to be placed... This is so tough. It needs to be placed in terms of our warp to player Y. Because if we do that, we'll place it right beneath us. So, we don't have a warp to player Y. Yes, we have a warp player to Y. Yeah, we do. So warp player to Y. See, I think this is backwards. I don't think we need to apply... No. This is right. Oh, man. Yeah, this looks wrong to me, actually. Because if we're defining warp player from Y by our warp from Y, where we warp from has nothing to do where we warp to. But we're not defining that there, actually. Holy crap, yeah, I think I need to go to sleep. It's tough because we're right there. It's like an off by one error, right? It has to do with this 16, and it has to do with incorrectly using some of these parameters. Okay, so we have a warp from X and Y. There's too many parameters, dude. Okay, warp player 2x, 2y. When we modify the player 2x and 2y, we're calculating it based on the warp 2. And that means we're putting it right above where we're defining our box. And warp 2, x, and 2y are passed in as the params. Yeah, because we give it the location of the warp zone boxes. Oh, yes. Okay. So we either have to recalculate our warp 2x and warp 2y to encounter, warp 2x and warp 2y. I think right here. It's weird because it works. That's the extra weird thing. Because I think we need to say that when we warp 2x, we're giving it... It's tough because we're giving it the tile position of the doorway, but the actual warp zone is like right below. Depending if we're warping to or from the place, it's either right above or right below the tile that we give it as a parameter. So I think that's what we're missing here. I think we're not subtracting when we go to our warp 2x should be, this parameter here, this warp to y, should be lower. Actually, lower in height, which means a bigger number, compared to warp 2y. It should be a bigger number. Okay, so I think we need the plus 16 here. I think we need the plus 16 here, and we can get rid of the minus 16 here. And then it should work with the proper 8 for the in at least. Let's see. Shit. Fuck. Okay, that's not it. We're close. We're close. I'm going to call it a night because it's hard for me to think about any of these parameters at this point. But let's add and commit. We'll say adding warp zone function calls. Working, but warp to Y is off by 1 row. So we'll probably fix that tomorrow because I don't like things like that hanging undone. So we'll probably do that tomorrow. And then we might add, tomorrow we might also do some pixel art for like the inn, so that we have like a little bed in there and a nightstand and maybe some like lanterns on the wall or something, so that we can flesh out the insides of places and make them look more than just a wood floor, because that's all we've got right now. But we've got the git commit, and I think we pushed. Yeah, we pushed. So with that, we'll be calling it a night. Thanks for watching. We'll we want to see if the guy Prosto told us was streaming. Oh no, we crashed, dude. We really crashed. Is it working? The shaky coder. Okay. This Prosto said this was a Love2d developer, so we'll go give him some thumbs ups and stuff like that. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Hope you all have a good night.